This is a short practice passage from Khan Academy going over a physics passage you might encounter on the MCAT. From my experience, these passages are usually shorter and easier in general, but nonetheless, still a great free resource to supplement your studying and mix up the content you see to avoid burnout. So to get started, we see this passage right off the bat is about concussive forces and how they impact the brain. As I am reading through the passage, I'm quickly looking for high-yield ideas like reducing the frequency or magnitude of the acceleration. I went ahead and highlighted those for you to see. Later on, they mention a working assumption, which should trigger something in your brain to take note, because usually those words are there for a reason. In this case, it tells us the mechanism at which they rate the severity of the concussion, which is based on the largest instantaneous acceleration. Then if you look at the graph, you can see the x-axis is a function of time and the y-axis of velocity. So you know the acceleration is the rate at which the velocity changes, which makes it easy to visualize the acceleration here, which is the slope of each line. Every time I'm working on a passage, I make sure to write a quick little summary and title, usually 1 to 2 sentences to orient myself in case I need to reference it later on. I also made a quick note of the most dangerous and safest pads based on the experimental parameters, anticipating they're probably going to ask about it in one of the questions. Now that we've analyzed the passage and made some notes, we can move on to the questions. Feel free to pause anywhere in the video if you want to answer these yourself and read the passage. So the first question is asking us about the acceleration of the brain when padding D is applied. And if we reference the chart, we can see a downward sloping curve. And by our understanding of the curve, we could say that acceleration is decreasing over time. That is, the slope is decreasing over time. For the second question is asking us what the most dangerous time frame is when padding C is applied. Looking at the graph again, we can see that early on, the acceleration of C is the steepest, meaning that the instantaneous acceleration is the highest. Therefore, 1 millisecond is the answer. For the third question is simply asking what is the most dangerous helmet, and that is D, which we took note of during the initial reading of the passage. We know this because the working assumption made by the researchers was that the highest instantaneous acceleration was the most dangerous for the brain. In the graph, we clearly see padding D as the highest slope. And for the fourth question, it is in the reverse case of the last question, so we know that A is the safest padding due to the smallest slope, or the instantaneous acceleration, which we took note of as well. For the final question, it's just a calculation we have to make. In this case, the function of B is constant, so we can use the slope formula, which is the change in velocity over the change in time for any point here. And so if we take the final point, we can divide 1.2 meters per second by 5 milliseconds, or 0.005 seconds, which then you would divide those and get 240 meters per second squared, which makes sense because the units match up to that of acceleration. Thanks, hope you enjoyed this explanation, and leave a comment if you have any questions.